Welcome to Baby Eagle. Seen from above, the Brahmaputra River appears as a majestic wonder of nature. Originating in the sacred Himalayas and named after the god Brahma, this river is both a lifeline and a threat to millions in India and Bangladesh. Facing the wrath of the Himalayas. High above the clouds, where oxygen is thin and snow never melts, the Brahmaputra River is born. Emerging from the frozen wilderness of the Himalayas, this mighty river begins its journey with a roar. Its early course is violent and chaotic, an untamed cascade of glacial meltwater crashing down steep ravines. Here, the river is not just a natural feature, it's a formidable force that carves the landscape with brutal determination. In this part of the world, navigation is nearly impossible. The river itself is too wild, with churning rapids, massive boulders, and sheer rock walls that defy boats and barges. Roads are the only option, but even they are little more than ribbons of gravel clinging to the mountainsides. For drivers like Rajkumar, these roads are his life and his daily battle. A local taxi driver with years of experience navigating these perilous switchbacks, Rajkumar knows every sharp turn and every unstable cliff by heart. His small vehicle, patched and dented from past skirmishes with the terrain, is both his livelihood and his companion on this treacherous path. But even with all his experience, every journey is a test of nerves. A single slip of the tires, a sudden gust of wind, or an unexpected landslide could send him plunging into the abyss. And yet, he returns, trip after trip, knowing full well what awaits him. The danger above, living under falling rocks. Driving in the Himalayas isn't just about maneuvering tight corners or avoiding sheer drops. The mountains themselves seem to conspire against travelers. Massive boulders, loosened by wind or water, can tumble down at any moment. Some fall with no warning, smashing into the road below with the power of a missile. During one routine trip, Rajkumar rounds a bend and suddenly brakes. Another truck is inching toward him from the opposite direction. The road narrows here, barely wide enough for one vehicle. Both drivers now sit still, stranded in a deadly standoff beneath a cliff known for frequent rockfalls. Just weeks ago, this very stretch witnessed disaster. A truck driver was caught in the wrong place at the wrong time when a giant rock, heavier than a car, detached from the cliffside and crushed his vehicle in seconds. The wreckage still lies beside the road, a grim warning of nature's unpredictability. On this particular day, the wind picks up again. Dust swirls through the air, small rocks tumble down, and the drivers exchange a knowing look. They need to move, but carefully and fast. Following a giant, the river's great journey. From its Himalayan cradle, the Brahmaputra cuts across the Asian continent, flowing through three nations: China, India, and Bangladesh. Spanning nearly 2,900 kilometers, it is one of the few rivers in the world that crosses such diverse terrain: high-altitude deserts, fertile valleys, floodplains, and finally, the low-lying delta of the Bay of Bengal. In India's northeastern frontier, the river winds through isolated tribal regions and dense forests. There are no highways here, no railroads, only dirt paths and makeshift bridges. These bridges, often built from bamboo or old wood, creak under the weight of passing vehicles, swaying dangerously with each step or gust. For locals, especially truck drivers transporting goods between remote communities, crossing these frail structures is a daily act of courage. One wrong move or structural failure could send an entire vehicle tumbling into the river below. Bangladesh, where the river becomes a way of life. As the Brahmaputra enters Bangladesh, it transforms. No longer a wild mountain river, it spreads wide and slow, braiding into countless channels that feed farms, support villages, and connect millions of lives. In this low-lying, flood-prone country, Rivers are the arteries of movement and trade. With limited road access in rural areas, boats become the dominant form of transportation. From large steel ferries to tiny wooden canoes, vessels crisscross the river at all hours of the day. But with so many people relying on the river, safety is often sacrificed for speed and profit. Overloaded ferries are a common sight, decked with people, animals, and goods packed tightly together. When the waters rise or the weather shifts, these boats can become death traps. In recent years, dozens of boats have capsized, leading to hundreds of deaths, many of them preventable. The floating livestock markets of Eid. During the days leading up to Eid al-Adha, the Brahmaputra transforms once again, this time into a floating corridor of commerce. Thousands of cattle are transported to markets in Dhaka and other major cities, often traveling hundreds of kilometers by boat. Manik, a livestock trader, is one of many navigating this seasonal rush. His boat, modified to carry animals, is loaded with 30 cows, each tied tightly to wooden posts. The boat rocks with each movement the animals make, threatening its fragile balance. The journey is full of hazards: sandbanks that can trap the vessel, sudden whirlpools that can pull it off course, and low-hanging power lines or bridges that must be ducked under. Manik must remain vigilant, adjusting weight distribution and keeping the animals calm. He's seen what can happen when things go wrong. A friend of his lost an entire shipment when a boat capsized, killing several cows and injuring the crew. Every trip is a gamble, but for many like Manik, there is no alternative. Hope, struggle, and disappointment at the market. For small farmers like Gurga, the Eid market represents more than just an economic opportunity. It's a lifeline. Over the last 25 years, Gurga has built his herd from 2 cows to 7. This year, he dreams of finally earning enough to renovate his house, buy better seeds, and pay for his children's education. But dreams don't always come true. On market day, the cows, stressed from the journey and heat, become restless. Buyers approach, inspect, and walk away. Some offer prices that are insultingly low, barely half of what he expected. Others exploit the farmer's desperation, knowing they can't afford to return home without selling. Gurga watches as traders close deals around him, while his animals remain unsold. He wipes the sweat from his brow, unsure whether to wait or accept a bad deal. The market is a place of hope, but also one of heartbreak. A trio of truckers brave the mountains. In the remote northeastern reaches of India, 3 truckers, Arjun, Deepak, and Shanu, begin day 2 of a grueling expedition along one of the most perilous roads on Earth. Their destination, the isolated town of Tuting, just 30 kilometers from the Chinese border. But to get there, they must conquer 160 kilometers of winding mountain roads, scarred by landslides, rockfalls, and crumbling edges that drop into deep ravines. Their trucks, each carrying dozens of heavy asphalt barrels weighing 75 kilograms apiece, teeter with every twist and turn. One wrong movement of the steering wheel, one unexpected bump in the road, and the entire load could shift, pulling the vehicle off the cliff in a split second. This isn't just a delivery, it's a test of endurance, nerves, and machine. The test of the old suspension bridge. As they inch deeper into the mountains, the trio faces a terrifying landmark, a narrow suspension bridge strung across a canyon far below. Built decades ago, the bridge was never designed for modern trucks, especially not ones hauling heavy cargo. The planks beneath their wheels are made of aging bamboo and creak ominously under pressure. Shanu, driving the heaviest vehicle, draws the short straw and must go first. He steps out to inspect the bridge. Some planks are missing. Others are held together by rusted nails and prayer. He knows there's no margin for error. He must drive exactly in the center, keeping his speed steady and the load perfectly balanced. As the truck begins to cross, the entire bridge groans. Drivers on the other side hold their breath. Shanu grips the wheel tighter, not daring to blink. After an agonizing few minutes, he makes it across. A small victory, but many more challenges lie ahead. Rough roads, rougher lives. The road ahead is barely a road at all, more a rugged trail scattered with jagged stones, waterlogged potholes, and mud. The truckers push forward because they have no choice. Payment only comes upon successful delivery, no matter how long the journey takes. And out here, there's no mechanic around the corner. If something breaks, they fix it themselves, often with nothing more than hand tools and ingenuity. The risk is constant. A fan belt snaps, they patch it. The engine overheats, they wait and hope. In these mountains, survival depends on self-reliance. Every kilometer traveled is a hard-earned accomplishment. Traditional life on the edge. Along the way, the drivers pass through tiny villages that seem frozen in time. These are places where electricity is rare and mobile signals are non-existent. Some settlements are so isolated that their only connection to the outside world is a single rope bridge slung over a river. Among the steep slopes live members of the Adi tribe, an indigenous group with a rich cultural history and deep connection to the land. In these valleys, money holds less value than trade. Locals barter spices, tea, salt, and cloth. Others, like Kayan and Sum, two young villagers, risk daily climbs along slippery cliffs to harvest cardamom pods, small green treasures that fetch high prices at market. The path is dangerous, infested with biting insects, bloodthirsty leeches, and treacherous terrain. But to them, it's simply life. They've never known anything else. The coming threat, dams, and displacement. But even these remote valleys are no longer safe from change. The Adi people are now facing the possibility of losing everything. A proposed mega dam could flood their rice fields, homes, and sacred lands. The Indian government has announced plans to build more than 150 dams across this region to meet rising energy demands. For a nation of over 1.3 billion people, water is power. The Brahmaputra, with its vast potential, has become the center of a silent conflict between progress and preservation, and India isn't alone. China, too, has been damming the river upstream. With each new structure, the flow changes, affecting not just India, but Bangladesh downstream. The question looms: how much control is too much? Pausing at the river's edge. After 16 hours of crawling through hairpin bends and rock-strewn paths, the truckers finally pull over to rest beside a stream. The sun beats down, pushing temperatures past 35 degrees Celsius. They wash their faces with river water, then gather around a small fire to cook lentils and rice. Between mouthfuls, they swap stories, tease each other, and laugh, because humor is one of the few comforts on this long road. Their friendship, forged through shared danger, is stronger than steel. After 2 brutal days, they've covered just 270 kilometers. One landslide, one engine failure, could erase all their progress. Bangladesh's dangerous industries. Far to the south, in the river-dense plains of Bangladesh, another struggle unfolds, this time in the name of labor. Here, thousands risk their lives in brutal industries like stone dredging and shipbreaking. Men haul granite rocks weighing over 130 kilograms from riverbeds, one after another, under the blistering sun. For a full day's work, they earn between $5 and $10. Their muscles strain, their backs bend. Yet the work continues, because there are no alternatives. In the bustling industrial zones of Dhaka, aging cargo ships arrive from across the globe, destined for dismantling. Workers, many still in their teens, strip them apart by hand. Sparks fly as torches slice through thick steel hulls. Rags serve as makeshift earplugs. Few wear gloves. Many have already lost their hearing to the roar of steel being torn apart. Giving old ships new life. Despite the danger, there's beauty in the chaos. Bangladesh has become a global leader in metal recycling, thanks to its ship-breaking yards. An estimated 30% of the country's metal comes from these decommissioned vessels. Here, nothing goes to waste. Gigantic anchor chains are melted down. Rusted engines are reassembled into new machines. In one remarkable case, an entire ship was sliced in two, then extended with new sections welded in, giving it a second life as a larger cargo carrier. It's recycling not by machines, but by sheer human effort. Rush and risk at the river ports. In the capital's busy ferry terminals, scenes of chaotic energy unfold during festival seasons. As Eid approaches, thousands of passengers flood the docks, eager to return home. Ferries, already loaded to capacity, continue to take on more. Captains race downriver, competing to be first to dock and unload. But this race comes at a price. In the past decade, over 1,700 lives have been lost in ferry collisions, capsizings, and fires. Overcrowding, poor regulation, and outdated vessels are a dangerous mix. For many, reaching home is a matter of luck. The final push to Tuting. Back in the mountains, Arjun, Deepak, and Shanu press forward on the last stretch to Tuting. The road is barely visible in places, recently repaired after a landslide buried it under tons of rock and earth. Their trucks rattle and groan, but they press on. After 3 relentless days, they reach their destination. 350 kilometers conquered, one perilous turn at a time. Exhausted, sunburnt, and covered in dust, they climb out of their cabs with pride. No one applauds them, but they know what they've achieved. This is not just a job, it's a calling. And for these men, no office desk will ever compare to the open road, no matter how dangerous it gets. A future in flux. India is racing toward modernization. Highways, tunnels, and dams are spreading deep into the Himalayas. One day, even Tuting will have smooth roads and easy access. But with every new project, the river changes, its flow altered, its power harnessed. China and India's race to control the Brahmaputra could leave Bangladesh dry. For millions who depend on the river not just for water, but for food, income, and identity, the future is uncertain. And as the landscape transforms, so too must the people who live within it, adapting to forces far beyond their control. The journey along the Brahmaputra River is far more than just an exploration of nature. This river embodies a microcosm of life where hope and danger, survival and struggle, tradition and change intertwine. Originating from the icy peaks of the Himalayas, its waters flow for thousands of kilometers, carrying countless stories that ultimately reflect the human experience. If you'd like to hear more stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Join us on our next adventure here on the Baby Eagle channel. Thank you.